100, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, continuing with some tools to study religion. We are not studying the religions of America, the religions of Native Americans, and yet I do start with this saying, this scripture, really, in some ways, from the Navajo. The beginning was mist. The first holy ones talked and sang as always. They created light, night, and day. They sang into place the mountains, the rivers, plants, and animals. They sang us into life. The singing of all that exist, of creating through song, is a beautiful image that actually resonates with another major author from Christianity that we're going to look at in a little bit, C.S. Lewis, who in his Chronicles of Narnia, his fantasy series that many people know, very, very popular series, and perhaps you also know the movies, in that the creator, the Christ figure, Aslan, creates through singing. In this particular section, in this lecture, I want to look at what is the sacred, what are God or gods for some, and again, in this class, we're looking at God, the one God. What is the really real, or for some, the Tao, the force, or something beyond this world? I mentioned C.S. Lewis, and if you're following the slides and want to look at the PowerPoints, I have the image from the film, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But I'd like to read it now for you. In this scene, Lucy is playing hide and go seek with her brothers and sisters in a house that they're staying in because of World War II and to get out of London for safety reasons. As she's hiding, she finds a wardrobe, which we would call an armoire in the United States, a self-standing closet, and she finds her way into the wardrobe. And I think C.S. Lewis, who wrote a great deal about theology and spirituality, is giving an image of the world beyond, the world of the numinous in this. Here we go, Lucy in the wardrobe. Looking into the inside of the wardrobe, Lucy saw several coats hanging up, mostly long fur coats. There was nothing Lucy liked so much as the smell and feel of fur. She immediately stepped into the wardrobe and got in among the coats and rubbed her face against them, leaving the door open, of course, because she knew that it is very foolish to shut oneself into any wardrobe. Soon she went further in and found that there was a second row of coats hanging up behind this first one. It was almost quite dark in there. She kept her arms stretched out in front of her so as not to bump her face into the back of the wardrobe. She took a step further in, and then 2 or 3 steps, always expecting to feel woodwork against the tips of her fingers. But she could not feel it. This must be a simply enormous wardrobe, thought Lucy, going still further in and pushing the soft folds of the coats aside to make room for her. Then she noticed that there was something crunching under her feet. I wonder if this is that more mothballs, she thought, stooping down to feel it with her hands. But instead of feeling the hard, smooth wood of the floor of the wardrobe, she felt something soft and powdery and extremely cold. This is very queer, she said, and went on a step or 2 further. Next moment she found that what was rubbing against her face and hands was no longer soft fur, but something hard and rough and even prickly. Why, it is just like branches of trees, exclaimed Lucy. And then she saw that there was a light ahead of her, not a few inches away, where the back of the wardrobe ought to have been, but a long way off. Something cold and soft was falling on her. A moment later, she found that she was standing in the middle of a wood at nighttime with snow under her feet and snowflakes falling through the air. Lucy felt a little frightened, but she felt very inquisitive and excited as well. She looked back over her shoulder, and there, between the dark tree trunks, she could still see the open doorway of the wardrobe and even catch a glimpse of the empty rooms from whence she had set out. She had, of course, left the door open, for she knew that it was a very silly thing to shut oneself into a wardrobe. It still seemed to be daylight there. I can always get back if anything goes wrong, thought Lucy. She began to walk forward, crunch, crunch, over the snow and through the woods toward the other light. In about 10 minutes, she reached it and found that it was a lamppost. I'll stop there, but if you know, this is the beginning of her adventures in a parallel world, the world of Narnia, and the lamppost is part of the world of Narnia, and then she meets a faun, a curious mythical creature, a faun. I think this is C.S. Lewis's fictional rendering of what the numinous, the other, the sacred looks like. He read Rudolf Otto. Otto lived from 1869 to 1937, and Otto talked about what was a common religious experience. He said that the most universal and basic phenomenon of religion is a kind of experience, the encounter with the sacred or the holy, or in his words, the numinous. And for Otto, the sacred, the holy, the numinous is mystery or mysterium that terrifies, tremendum, and fascinates, fascinans. Mysterium, tremendum, et fascinans. This was in his 1917 book, The Idea of the Holy, again, which deeply influenced C.S. Lewis. Some people don't have these kinds of intense experiences, of course, but religious traditions preserve them in scripture, ritual, art, and music. Now, in saying that some people don't have them, it is worth noting that 2 out of 3 people, Americans at least, according to George Gallup, have this experience of something bigger than themselves. There's a sense of the tremendum, the element of awfulness, a sense of the supernatural, dread, and various feelings, a sort of uncanny, eerie, or creepy feeling of a god or something outside that is kind of an inward shuddering, more from a sense of awe than natural fear. Lewis puts it in when he says, Lucy felt a little frightened, but she felt very inquisitive and excited as well. The mysterium that terrifies and fascinates. Now, these feelings that can arise from an encounter, sometimes with these experiences that are recorded of demons or ghosts or otherworldly, or even a sense of this anger of God. For Otto, this is now Otto's discussion, the sense evolved from a dread of ghosts and demons to a majestic sense of God and of worship. And so you have this sense that you have an urgency or energy, a factor that can prompt you, and there's passion, and there is emotion, and there is movement and excitement out of this. In Israel, this is the mysterium tremendum that is experienced, as I mentioned in the previous one of these lectures, of Isaiah in the 6th chapter of the book. And here it is in Matthias Scheidt's depiction of his call, and this is Scheidt's vision of Isaiah, where the angel touches Isaiah's lips, and there's the mysterious and the tremendous. Let me read to you from the book The World's Wisdom, one of our core texts by Philip Novak, as he introduces Judaism and the text of Judaism. Judaism can be viewed as the evolution of a people in the grip of 2 towering great ideas. The first is the idea of God, imageless, primordial, creative, and utterly transcendent, who nevertheless cares for creation. And the second is the idea of human dignity. Men and women become fully human only by responding to the moral intuitions divinely etched in their hearts. Judaism says that God calls us into a sacred agreement or covenant in which respect for life and the promotion of justice are paramount concerns. Life's purpose is to be found in the healing of the world, tikkun olam. That's the Hebrew word for the healing of the world, so that the world may then reflect for the good of all the radiance of its creative source. So this mysterious, tremendous mystery also leads to an ethical response. So in religious poetry, you see it in the Muslim mystic Rumi. Birdsong brings relief to my longing. I'm just as ecstatic as they are, but with nothing to say. Please, universal soul, practice some song or something through me. Or the Christian mystic Mechtild of Magdeburg from the 13th century. I cannot dance, Lord, unless you lead me. If you want to keep me with abandon, you must intone the song. Then I shall leap into love, from love into knowledge, from knowledge into enjoyment, and from enjoyment beyond all human sensations. There I want to remain, yet want also to circle higher still. And if you remember the scene from the 1981 movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, when the Ark of the Covenant is opened in the Indiana Jones movie, and I have it in the slide if you watch the slides later, a clip. But the Nazis who have stolen the Ark are utterly decimated by the power and the awesomeness of the God who is in the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant, again, which had held the Ten Commandments in the Hebrew Bible or Old Testament, was powerful and mysterious. It wasn't something to be messed around with. Next time I will look a little bit more at these two worlds, the sacred and the profane. The sacred, the world of humans, the sacred, the world of gods, the supernatural, the profane, the natural, or the world of humans. But for now, we'll keep it at this experience of the holy, the experience of the mysterious and tremendous mystery that fascinates as the essence of religion, particularly the religions we're looking at, the monotheistic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.